You know that feeling that there's a healthier, more energetic version of yourself kind of locked away inside? Well, today we're diving into this really fascinating story that suggests we all have this inner power for well being, a super gene, and it's just waiting for us to unlock it.
Now, what's really interesting is that this story comes from a book with a very specific instruction right on the cover. It's not just for kids. It's actually a fable designed for parents, for educators, really for all of us. It uses a super simple narrative to get at some incredibly deep truths about our health. So, that leads us to the big question, right? Can a simple story, about these tiny little creatures in a garden really teach us profound lessons about our own health? Well, let's jump in and find out. Okay, so our journey starts in this beautiful garden. And it's here that we're introduced to a tiny creature named Rachel, who, and I think a lot of us can relate to this, feels like her true potential is just out of reach. So when we first meet Rachel, she's not feeling her best. She's really struggling with the basics. Moving is a chore, her energy is just always low, and her body aches. This is our starting point, that familiar feeling of having this inner potential that's still kind of dormant. But then, everything changes. In a complete accident, Rachel tumbles into this sparkling drop of water that leads her to a magical pool. And wow, the transformation is pretty much immediate. Inside this pool, the change is just profound. The pain in her limbs, gone. Her hearing sharpens, her breathing becomes easy and free. It's like a total system reboot, awakening her body's natural state of just feeling good. And what is this feeling, this power that's growing inside her? The story gives it a name, Supergen. This is that moment she finally connects with her body's own built-in potential for health and vitality.
Okay, and here's where the story connects directly to you and me. Supergen isn't just some fantasy character, it's a powerful metaphor for our own genes. The ones that, if you give them the right conditions, are designed to build strong muscles, healthy bones, and happy hearts.
And that magic pool? Yeah, that's a stand-in for something very real. The therapeutic power of water and movement, which you might know as hydrotherapy. The story is literally connecting this magical experience to a proven scientific practice. Pretty clever.
But of course, just as things are looking up, a new character enters the scene. And his arrival, even though he means well, brings about a sudden and pretty dramatic disruption. So Andrew, this little boy, is exploring his garden with a new magnifying glass, and he's just fascinated by this tiny world he discovers. But in his giant-sized curiosity, he inadvertently ends up destroying their entire habitat, including the very source of their newfound health.
The character's reaction really says it all. The loss of their home, their spa, is a complete catastrophe. It's the loss of the very environment that was allowing them to thrive.
And this leads us to the next really critical part of the story, which explores what happens when you take a healthy organism and you stick it in an unhealthy environment. Feeling absolutely terrible, Andrew brings the displaced creatures into his home. But for them, his house is this disorienting world of giants, and the only food available is, a mountain of processed, sugary sweets. And at first, it seems great. The sweet treats are appealing, they're delicious, it's an easy, tempting substitute for what they've lost. But, as you can probably guess, this initial delight is dangerously deceptive. So this sets up an incredibly stark contrast. The creatures go from their natural habitat, which was all about joyful movement and energy, to this artificial world built on inactivity and mountains of sugar. The link between our surroundings and our health just couldn't be clearer. And the consequences are swift. Their inner supergen starts to shrink as their energy just vanishes. The story even personifies this decline by introducing these new, unhealthy characters, like Galossin and Virusin, who are pretty clear stand-ins for the illnesses and ailments that thrive on sugar and inactivity. But just when all seems lost, the story shifts towards a solution. It's this powerful moment of realization and collective action, and it shows us the path back to health. The turning point here is an act of shared awareness. It's not just one person. It's everyone, from the tiny creatures to Andrew's family. They all see the negative impact, and they make a collective decision to reclaim their health. And I love this part because the recovery plan isn't based on magic, it's based on conscious choices. It unfolds in 3 really clear steps. First, you have to honestly acknowledge the problem. Second, you actively change the diet. And third, you commit to restoring a healthy environment. And by working together, they actually succeed. Andrew and his family don't just fix the damage, they actively create a new home, a sanctuary designed for health and well-being, which allows the tiny creatures to thrive once more. The story's conclusion just reinforces this powerful truth. It wasn't about finding a magic pill, it was about creating the right conditions. With a proper space and some intentional care, health and happiness naturally followed. So ultimately, the story's big takeaway is all about shared responsibility. It shows that by caring for our environment, both the world around us and the one inside our own bodies, we can help activate that supergen potential for ourselves and for our entire community. And that leaves us with one final thought. This isn't just a story about tiny creatures. It's really about us. So if you look at your own life, your own environment, what's one small change you could make, starting today, to awaken and nurture your own supergene?